And we're live. Okay, so hello everyone. It's awesome to meet you. We haven't had a meeting for 3 weeks. I was recovering, but now I'm still not okay. But yeah, like F it, like we are doing this. My mind is clear and we're able to talk, and that's what matters. Okay, so mainly today I wanted to talk about the early stages of awakening, since many people are going through that. Also, we have high vibrations with us to address that topic, and also ascension symptoms, since many of us are like hit with weird stuff. And like I also want to address that. So anyone who wishes to share in the comments or the chat, then please do so. Other than that, I wanted to mention our Patreon community. It is our private community where we can have different types of group activities together. For example, next week we are going to have a channeling session where I bring through my guides and you can ask them your questions. And I also haven't talked about it for quite some time, but anyone who is interested in Hermetic teachings or the Kabbalion or the Emerald Tablets of Thoth the Atlantean, you can check out the book that it's almost a year since I've released it. It's a channeled material from Thoth the Atlantean, 22 chapters regarding all the principles of creation, transmutation, alchemy, and how things work in the universe, and like with different tools on how we can maneuver in this reality and what we can do, basically. Yeah. So if you're very much into that stuff, please check it out. It's all in the description. And yeah, I welcome you, High Vibrations. We haven't had this talk for like 3 weeks, I think. She also has a YouTube channel, and her link to the channel will be in the title in a couple of minutes when we start talking. But if you're listening to the recording, then welcome. Lots of love to you. And her link to the channel is already there. Okay. So we were discussing with High Vibrations some Ascension stuff that is like hitting guys around the world right now.
Yeah.
I'm also in my 3rd week right now with this. So do you have anything interesting to share with us regarding this interesting phenomenon?
Well, yeah, thank you. Before I go there, I would like to say really quickly that the Patreon group is a really amazing way to connect to other starseeds, light warriors, empaths like us. You know, it's a lot of us find ourselves in this long, drawn out experience of feeling alone and isolated and weird, you know, and you're not. It's just that, you know, there's not been the means to connect. And through the method of Guardians Patreon, we meet every week, and it's, you know, just a conversation between others like you, where you don't really have to explain anything because everyone already understands. So it's really cool. So if anyone's in, I really enjoy it. It's really awesome way to connect. And sorry, your question was about, sorry, what?
Yeah, like you can also share your gatherings that you're doing on a weekly basis too, your Zoom gatherings.
Yeah, we have free Zoom gatherings every Sunday, Tuesday, and Friday. There are different times every time. We moved them around a bit because to accommodate other people in different time zones. So if you're interested, just go to my channel in the community section. I always put up a link for, as the meeting has a new link every meeting to refresh and renew the energy present. So just keep an eye in my community section.
That's awesome. Thank you. Okay, so let's go into the energy stuff. And anyone is like wishes to share like what they're going through, like please put them in the chat box. Or if you're listening to the recording, then into the comments, and we'll do our best to respond to them.
Yeah. Yeah. So by having all of these Zoom meetings, I have a unique gift or blessing of getting all this information that comes through and seeing, having the ability to compare so many different individuals on this awakening journey and what they're going through, specifically since my channel does focus mostly on like dark night of the soul and ascension symptom kind of stuff. That's what I get to hear about. And so I am uniquely informed. And right now, there's been a long time now, we've had an experience where mostly in the spiritual community, some people have noted they have had a different experience, but for the most part, the majority of us only really seen females women coming through with like healing kind of stuff, and not just women, but mostly women, you know, like Guardian doing his channel felt like, it still feels like a unique thing right now. And I think there's a lot of different other reasons for it, but the basis of it is that the divine feminine wasn't anchored here for the longest time, and as a result, the what divine masculine was here was just basically just demolished and messed up in a lot of ways. And not demolished, that's not the right word, but tainted. And so now that the divine feminine is finally anchored, and we're coming into that power, we're able to stand. So then now that the men can come up and come through, because they've been holding the light for all of us, you know. And it's not a comment on the weaker, fairer sex either. It's simply that energetically the men were holding up the women. And now that the women can do that, the men are starting to like catch up rapidly. And like, as a result, there's a lot of crazy ascension symptoms that men are having in particular. Now, not just men, but the experience that the men are having seems to be much more intense, where they're actually calling it ascension flu. Some of the people I've talked to are calling it ascension flu. And
I definitely have that one.
yeah, good example. And, you know, talking to the other people, as Guardian has, you know, very quickly faded in and out because he's been not well. He's reported different symptoms that are similar to what else the other people are saying. A lot of it has to do with there's this throat region, so like lungs, throat, sinus stuff. That stuff has those chakras. We know about the throat chakra. We know let me rephrase that. We talk about 7 chakras typically, but we really do have a lot more. And so right now, these are the chakras that the men are noticing most getting turned on, as well as heavy back related stuff. And I think that has like some betrayal energy of that needs to be healed, or at least looked at, because most of the stuff that needs to be healed is simply things that have been ignored in the past. So I don't need to continue. I'm sorry. You're the man here. Do you want to talk about your symptoms?
My essential symptoms. Well, it's kind of odd. It all kind of started like 3 weeks ago. I had like some type of psychic attack-ish thing going on, but it was not like severe or anything. Mm-hmm. And after that, like a few days, I like started to go into this like flu type of thingy. But like when I canceled all those live events, like I think like 3 weeks ago, we haven't had one for almost a month. Like I wasn't able to speak, so it was like very heavy on me. I was like super tired, and I lost my voice. So right now I can like speak pretty well compared to that. If I pull my stuff together, it sounds relatively okay. But I literally like lost my voice. Like I only could like whisper in that period. It was very uncomfortable. And also I have like a stuffy nose, which hinders you from sleeping during the night, which is also a great combination. But yeah, like I was like coming out of it, and like 2 days ago, it like started to come up again. And I'm really starting to get tired of it. But other than that, I haven't really experienced anything more difficult or anything. I've noticed like if I take my time to connect more with nature and like rest and reflect, that kind of helps with it. It's more okay. But yeah, like I'm starting to grow tired of this phase that I'm in right now. And I don't understand like what the hell is happening, like what should I be doing? Or did I did something wrong? And should I heal something? Or is it something coming up that is like manifesting itself like this? Or like what is happening? I haven't managed to like figure out how to get out of it quickly or something like that.
Right. And you know, there's a lot of things we can do to dull the experience of these ascension symptoms, but for the most part, it's something that we want. It doesn't seem like it. It's especially when you're in it. You know, like there's typically a lot of these symptoms expand or intensify during certain alignments with the planets. When there's an eclipse, you know, it does follow the moon cycle.
Those right now.
And we're having all of those right now. I actually need to look up whether or not there's an eclipse, because it feels like there is going to come have one really soon. There's that energy, that swelling, get ready, almost open the curtains at the show kind of energy that's coming through. And I mentioned that to say that also, you know, the other variety, that the symptoms that both men and women are experiencing simultaneously are intensifying. Like as in particular, most people are talking about like the vertigo, dizzy, disorientation kind of stuff. You know, like I'm noticing the dizzy stuff quite a bit, but what's really been hard on me is I've brain farts, which is what they call it. Like, just you're in the middle of something, like, and it's like really you have this crescendo. You can here's a building energy of something. I'm going to say something really important, and then you get to almost there, and you're like, well,
yeah,
I don't know why I was talking just now. And that one's bothered. I've never, and also grasp of the vocabulary is being affected. And for me, I have always been very well spoken, and I've noticed I've been struggling to grasp the words I need to articulate or to emphasize the point that I'm trying to make. So it's kind of been something that part's been bothering me the most.
yeah, but it's also like transitory. So it's this spirit is, I don't know, like how much is it going to last? That yeah, like for how long do we have this alignment thing going on? Like we're going like 7 planets are aligning right now with it, I think. Yeah.
I think it's 7. And according to my daughter, she follows the dwarf planets, and she refuses to call them dwarf planets either. We're the planet underdog family around here. So, but according to her, Make is a dwarf planet, and also Ceres, Seres, they're also going to be in alignment. And that peak happens on the 25th, 2 days from now, but it continues on even further into July. I just can't remember. I think the 14th is another really significant, and that's just the planetary alignment we're talking about. We're also getting hit by these really weird solar flares. They're coming in, and they're intensifying and staying for a prolonged period of time. Like these solar flares are lasting longer, you know, and that's been really, so the energy that's coming from those solar flares is more intense. And then the Schumann resonance, you know, spiking up and down, you know, that's also showing the energy coming up from the planet. So we're getting it both ways, the sun and the board of Gaia and the planetary alignment. And we're at this there's something else. I don't really know exactly what it is. There's something else. It's got to be an eclipse or something. I don't know. I'm going to find out. I'll put it in the comments later on when I discover what it is.
Yeah, like how can we use this energy to our advantage, basically? Because like it is there to like to bring forth change and to intensify stuff in our world.
Right.
And some people are like using it to very beneficial stuff. Like you can do like meditations, maybe to anchor more light. But on a personal level, like what do you feel like? How can we use this type of period to our advantage?
Oh, yeah. That's a really good point. So we're being given all this energy to assist us in this ascension experience, and to help anyone that doesn't really understand yet, or is new on this or whatever, to kind of understand a little bit of what ascension is. It's not like all this. It's a slow, gradual process toward a higher frequency, you know, and things that are not in our perceivable range, that our ability to see, are slowly coming into our visual range because our frequency is raising up to match that. And as we go there, as we're ascending and upgrading in our DNA, like turns out, guess what? Surprise, our 95% junk DNA isn't junk DNA after all. And it's actually just dormant DNA that's being activated for us. So this is helping us. These energies that are coming in are giving us the most perfect ground to create this new space, to be in this new space, to bring your, the word that keeps coming in is healing. but I don't know how the right way to explain that. The healing that needs to occur for each of us. And that healing is that forgiveness, like that love that is given to so many others around you, also to yourself. Before giving that love, before giving that forgiveness to yourself, also that love can't fully be experienced. It's like drinking, having a half a cup of tea and wanting to know what coffee tastes like, and filling the rest of the way with coffee. Now you're never really going to know what it's like. It's mumbled, mixed up with other stuff. And so anyway, I'm sorry, that was just something I needed to say, and I forgot what I was talking about before that. But
Okay. Well, I was kind of like also asking like what the hell is going on, or at least I think it was mostly for me, like in this period. And I was like seeing the analogy of the worm, or I don't know, like what the hell, like in the cocoon, and like everything like being caterpillar, I'm sorry. Everything being like liquefied within itself. And it's basically like a very fragile state that it is in, while it is like completely transforming itself into a butterfly. And I kind of felt that, okay, like we're in that phase right now. This is like very fragile and weakened state when we're like rearranging ourselves to be the next level, to metamorphosize into a butterfly period. I think like also you were talking about like butterflies like a week ago or something. During meetings.
I had a experience where I turned into multiple butterflies. It was like, and then I could perceive all of the experiences of, because I dispersed into all these. It was really cool. The butterfly analogy fits really well, exactly what we're going through. And also, when you were talking, that there's a meme or a cartoon that I saw. There's a butterfly and a caterpillar sitting at a diner table, and the caterpillar says, "You change," and the butterfly says, "We're supposed to." And like I see that as, when we go through this awakening experience, unfortunately we leave behind others too, because they aren't at this space yet. It doesn't mean they won't come along. They're not going to eventually find their way also into a cocoon. It's that in the meantime, you need to keep doing you and not worry that you're not who you're taking along with you, because they'll still come. They'll be on their way.
Yeah, like I also was getting these messages regarding other people, and I think like mostly in the community, like people were asking about like, what about my loved ones or like friends, like how are they going to awaken and ascend? Right. And like also during channeling sessions, it's always like coming up that evolution is a choice, and like everyone needs to choose for themselves what they want to experience further, and like you can't make them choose what you want them to choose, basically. Like that's not how it works.
Exactly.
And like that's not why we are here at all. Yeah. I was like also getting the message that like we are not here to change people or to like change the world or anything. We're just here to do our thing and like show an example to other people, like, hey, like you can actually do stuff differently. Like you don't have to live in that old paradigm and those limiting stuff. You can actually move beyond that and have an actually fulfilling and happy life. Exactly. If you want to do the work, basically, because you have to work on it if you want to get there. Because like we have so much stuff accumulated during lifetimes and also in this one, that you have to work for that. Like there are no shortcuts to it, basically.
Exactly. And as we came in, the thing is the majority of us here, and I feel almost confident enough to say everyone listening to this, whether it's after it's been recorded or after live or not, are the ones that have come in here to start the awakening experience, because we already have done this. We've already ascended planets before. We're like the ones that come in and we're creating a bridge. That's that rainbow bridge reference, that we're the rainbow people and we're the rainbow bridge, is that we're basically showing we're making a road to ascension, basically, to guide these individuals so they can come too, and like, it doesn't mean that we're special or whatever, like, oh, but it's just that, you know, we've done it before, so we're coming to help, you know. And as we're doing that, we have to experience a lot of these density experiences, and to catch up. We've had, most of us who have been on this journey have some really crazy backgrounds, like some trauma. You know, most of us have not had the best childhoods, for example, and there's a reason for that. For us to be able to experience all these different densities, we can then assist that energy. And so now, as all this stuff is coming out, see, because we're moving up, and so are the other things that have been left behind. Let me explain it this way. I've been working in this space I've been calling the gray room, but it's basically like a limbo space. And when I go there, there's a lot of people there. And those people are all holding on to something. It's like a symbolic something. There's something that they're holding on to. And almost always, I'm going to tell you, almost always it has to do with lack of self-forgiveness. Bottom line, you know, and by holding on to that stuff, they're not able to move on. So a lot of us are doing it in a different way. And I'm doing it this way too, in a way, but we're feeling the energy that's moving through us and letting it be seen so it can move. So like, we're getting these weird flashes of, like, some are pretty traumatic experiences to see. It almost feels like a psychic attack, where it's like a flash of something awful. That's not meant for you to look at any further, to explore. It's simply asking to be seen so it can be released. That's what we're doing. We're these conduits of this energy that needs to move on. And, you know, we've spent many thousands of years by the idea that everything should be ignored and made go away, and it doesn't go away. It just lingers and needs to be acknowledged, like a child in the corner.
Yeah, like also these dark stuff, like attacks and like attachments and things like that, or like bumps during the night when weird stuff happen. If you like choose to ignore it being there or like happening to you, it will not go away, because you like choose to kind of like be complicit with its presence, basically. So it will stay there if you don't acknowledge it and release it properly. Exactly. Just as you were saying. And yeah, like also Sylvia asked something. So I realized I was programmed not to feel safe and secure and peaceful from upbringing, but I really desire safety, calm, and peace. All of us, I think. Yeah, like, but kind of, it's the same thing with the ascension process and evolution. Yeah, like you have to acknowledge all those belief systems that are like keeping you in that unsafe space. And after you have like realized them, you can work on them day by day, step by step, transmute them with a violet flame or whatever works for you, and slowly like letting them go, and basically allow yourself to like realize that you are safe, you are protected, and like you always have kind of always tap into that energy, receive that from the universe, like whenever you desire to do so. Just as you were like calling in that anxiety, stress, and fear into your life, you can do the same with peace, calm, and safety, basically. We just kind of have to learn how to consciously tap into different energies, since like all that negative aspect has been like hammered into our consciousness, and many people, that's all they know, and many of us are struggling to let it go also. But yeah, like as I have found, and also during the channelings that came through that, doing it like being it as like a daily practice of like recognizing yourself when you're like slipping into that darker space of like not being safe, of like having anxiety and all those racing thoughts that don't raise your vibration, basically, and like turn them around and actually focus on stuff that are always present, that are actually can raise your vibration. Because since we live in duality, like both are present all times, and like every action and every event has its ups, like there's positive and negative aspects as well. And what you can do is choose like how do you take it, or like which end of the stick do you want to grab onto and use it in a positive way, or like I don't know, like go into a victim mode and go down that dark rabbit hole, basically.
Yeah, Right. And, once you realize who you are, that's the biggest thing that keeps coming in my head is like once just the parade of excitement of everyone can't wait till we all realize who we are. Once you figure it out, once you get to that point or even start to touch it, you realize that, all of these other individuals there that seem like they're overlords or able to overpower an individual, they actually can't, like you're the
Yeah.
one that has
Fair
these
rules the
gifts.
low.
Yeah, exactly. Like, we were talking about how, like everything looks like spheres, but when it's actually hexagonal. And the reason of that is that the spheres inside of the light, the hexagonal, the points that move on a sharp angle are the denser energies. There's like more of an AI like feeling to them, and like we all see it in the honeycomb sense, but the spheres within that's the light. That's God, and what's the most important to know about all this stuff is that God, your higher power, whatever you want to call it, like is the strongest, most perfect love. Like there's nothing, the experience of being in the presence of that love is so overwhelming. It's beautiful. And the opposite is fear. And, whatever you want to call that fear is your decision. Those things that are really close to that part of the spectrum, the fear side, are things like shame, or things like, things against yourself, poor body image, things like that. That's all down there too. And, that's why a lot of this media stuff always seems to pull us that direction, is it's trying to pull us away from these experiences. And what's not so ironic, I don't know how to explain it. It's really uncomfortable that when I have an ascension symptom, my immediate response is that of fear. And I'm learning to not stay in that space that long anymore. Now that I've gone to so many doctors so many times, and they're like, you're very healthy, and just, thinking that I have whatever that disorder is that likes phobia, the person who likes to pretend they're sick all the time. Me not knowing a word, right? See, that's
I know
happening
the
a lot.
I can't remember, yeah.
But yeah, and it's
hypochondriac, I think.
Yes, thank you, hypochondriac. And being almost accused of that, or you must be looking for drugs, but I refuse to take any of their medications. So it's just anyway. And then coming to that realization that I'm okay. I don't have to keep going to the doctor to find out that I'm okay. I know I'm okay. It's that, especially with knowing all these other people are going through these things. However, once I can, or anyone can get to that point where they're not knee jerking into fear, it'll make the ascension experience a lot easier and smoother, I think, and like, because that pulls us away a little bit from the love, and when you find yourself in a place of fear or even an uncomfortable experience, send love to it. Like Guardian likes to burn everything, but I'm telling you, send love to it. Like, like the I love you energy. And like when you fill yourself with that light that comes down from God through your crown chakra, and just breathe it in and send it out, send out the love light. It's weird. It's like a solid becomes sand that falls and disappears. It's crazy, like, and it assists any experience that we're in, and that's the zero point that everybody always talked about. I never realized it was in that place of love before. And then Guardian likes to burn it.
I do. Well,
you like to burn it, but using the violet flame works great too. Like I got a violet flame going right now, but
yeah, like that's a great tool, like that you can use very easily. Like you don't have to have a degree in it or anything. It's there for everyone. It's an awesome transformational and transmutational tool as well. I've seen like people talking about transmutation in the chat box. So if you're into transmutation, then work with the violet flame and send the violet flame frequency to people, to yourself, to different parts of yourself, to events. to places and to transmute all the density, fear, doubt, disbelief into source creative energy, and so it can be like used up in a positive and constructive way. Because like I think like I've also like picked up a few comments lately that there are these dark stuff and you have to like destroy it or something, and basically like you have to like you cannot really destroy anything because like energy exists, it can be only like transformed. So like even if those dark stuff come in, you can transform them into positive stuff. Like that's our ability that we have in this reality as a human being, that we can experience the nasty stuff, but if we like choose to do so, then we can transform them into positive and constructive stuff. That's our superpower.
Yeah. I love to use the flame on myself, like when it comes to healing or just, and there's very varying levels of healing that needs to occur, you know, like the reason that we have a physical symptom is to guide us to address an area, you know, like as an example, you know, like if the back of your neck is really intense and it just continually bothers you for a long time, you know, there's a reason they say you're being a pain in the neck. There's irritation or some type of thing that needs to be released in you, you know, like it just, you know, your back stuff. I always I noticed that for myself has been it was significant for me to heal the experience of betrayal. I had a handful of experiences in multiple carnations where I was called something that needed to be destroyed. And, you know, like that's a betrayal that needed to be healed and forgiven, you know. And what was surprising to me again was that I needed to forgive myself because I felt responsible. I shouldn't have told that person, or I shouldn't have, you know, that kind of little stuff. It gets out, it gets away. You don't really even notice that it's affecting your whole experience. And so like a lot of these ascension symptoms are also just that, to denote places that need to get more healing right now. And the flame works really well for that. And in a place of meditation, the color of the flame changes for whatever's going on. And like I love it when it's like a rainbow. I get a lot of, sometimes it'll just be all the colors. And that's not, whatever your experience is, that's you're guided to do, you're in the right place. Just keep going with it.
Yeah, like the flame also can change its direction or movement. It can be like very intense or like very like mellow, and like, or it can like be like a whirlpool maybe inside your body or around you, or it can just like washing away stuff from you. It depends on like what you need, and it will change its color and direction and movement depending on what you need at that current moment. And I also wanted to say something before, and what we were talking before the fire, I wanted to address that as well. Yeah, like the backstabbing stuff. Yeah, I just remembered. Yeah, like many of us are like so introverts, and like we're afraid to like address or to share with anyone that, hey, like you're into spiritual stuff, you know, that weird stuff with ETs and meditation and those weird things. And like we're like very hesitant to share this side of our lives with many people because not just our society has like conditioned us to believe that that is like something undesirable, or I know like being spiritual is not sexy or stuff like that.
Right.
But like we had these experiences in, I'm sorry, in prior lifetimes when yeah, like we were backstabbed, like we were hunted, like we were considered witches or I don't know, like charlatans, and they were like burning us at the cross. Like that leaves a mark on you, like
Oh yeah.
not just in this life, but not just in that life, but like throughout other incarnations as well.
Exactly. You know, and it wasn't just the witch trials. Like, you know, I mean, it's no secret that when the invading Europeans came, they were targeting the people of wisdom, the medicine, the elders, the medicine, the shaman, the healers, the ones that had the knowledge. And that happened to every culture in one way or another, you know, and there's a reason for that, to try to quash that knowledge. And by doing so, we just kept coming back. And so most of us had such an experience through multiple lifetimes in different you know, the one that people know the most are the witch trials, but that was, it's amazing when step, yeah, it was hardly anybody compared to the stuff that we saw. Like, yes, you know, and it's been going on for a really long time. And so now we're here and we have this stuff to heal. And
like
so
commit genocide to entire groups of people also in Europe in the Middle Ages. Like if you were like into Gnosticism and there were like these tribes in France, I know, I'm not sure like under which king, and they absolutely committed genocide. Like they exterminated everyone in those tribes because like they were like not subservient to the Catholic Church and they were into self-empowerment and Gnosticism, and that just couldn't be tolerated in Europe.
That happened all over the world. They call it the Crusades, the Christian Crusades. Oh, yeah. And it's a plural. There was more than one of them, you know, when they went through and it wasn't, and then also artifacts of anything that was leading anyone information to a different way. And there was a period where there was no scrolls. They destroyed all the libraries, like the Library of Alexandria is the one that I always think about. And it's like, oh man. But like,
it kind of like backfired because they were like clay tablets and they basically burned the tablets so they became even hardier and they preserved it through time that way.
Yeah, and it was just an attempt to, you know, all it did is slow everything down, you know. And so now we're back to this point. We're back to restart. Restart actually happened a couple of months ago, so a lot of us are on this experience and on this journey, this awakening experience. We were feeling like a lot of it didn't feel familiar, but there was a familiarity to it. And then all of a sudden there wasn't anymore. It suddenly felt like you're riding along on your tricycle and someone took off your training wheels. You're like, whoa, you know, and the reason for that is we had finally passed that space. We have been repeating history since Atlantis, trying to get past that hump, basically, right? And that was what happened a couple of months ago. We passed that hump. We are now all in new territory for this experience. And so that's why we get to have all this stuff turning on, you know, get to have anxiety coming in from nowhere all of a sudden and then disappear. You get to have with extreme heart palpitations, you know, dizziness. The ear ringing is awesome, but you know, like it's turned into something more melodic, but it's like a melody. But then there's that dead ear where you feel like you're listening from underwater, you know, and then the twitches on your face was kind of uncomfortable, but now it's like whole body, whole muscle groups and spasming and going into like Charlie horses and kind of stuff. And these weird hives all over the legs. I'm just naming off all these Ascension symptoms. If I should stop, I will. But the weird hives on the legs and the I don't know if I mentioned dizziness, but it's a different kind of dizziness. It's not just, you don't feel like you're really gonna fall, but you are. I don't know, it's weird.
Yeah, and like I feel it's very disoriented. Like I like go down the stairs and like all of a sudden like, whoa, like I have to hold on to the wall or something.
Yeah, we're getting vertigo. And I think what that is that we're in these two places. It's like jump back and forth energetically from a higher frequency to a little bit lower. And so it looks different. And time, that's another thing is time. The time slippage thing that's happening, the reason that time is misbehaving basically. And the reason of that is that the higher the frequency that you are in, the faster the time flows. When you get far enough away, time actually isn't a thing. Time is a place. Because when you travel, like when you're in astral, you travel to a time, you don't travel to a place. And time is really a circle and you stand in the middle, you can touch any point that you want to. But anyway, so as we're going up there, the time keeps speeding up and then coming back to normal again, and speeding up and coming back to normal again. And also when I'm in a spiritual journey of some kind, like I'll be doing some work, like I'll leave my body and be doing astral work, and I'll be in a meditative state. And like, it seems like I was probably there for hours, like hours, and come back and it's only been a few moments, maybe 20 minutes, you know, and I'm familiar enough with that experience to know that isn't how time used to be felt, which is fascinating.
Yeah, like time is relative.
Right.
Okay, so Aaron just shared that I have had many dreams of past lives of being hunted. A lot of persecutions that had to be healed was blocking my throat chakra. Yeah, like if you went through all those nasty experiences, like all the built up emotions are like building up in our throat chakra, like like even when you're like feeling that you're going to cry or like you're super upset, you're like all that you feel that tension rising in your throat because like it's all accumulating in the throat chakra basically.
Exactly.
And like it's also it's very similar to what I experienced that when like you have to like let go of all that built up tension and those fears basically because they're like hindering you from speaking your truth. And
Right.
that's kind of also what happened back in those lifetimes. Like you were haunted because you speak your truth, or you wanted to share something that was like not fashionable. And
Right.
like we learned it on like a soul level that it's very dangerous to actually share what is your truth or who you are, basically. And that's kind of the main thing that we have to work on in this lifetime as well, because like people need that information, need that perspective, because like many people are going through similar stuff, they just don't talk about it because like
Yeah.
they feel like it's crazy, or they have like absolutely zero clue like what is happening to them. And I think like that's the scariest part of it, also for me as well during my awakening, that weird stuff were happening and then I had like zero clue like what is happening to me. And that's like
Right.
far scarier than knowing that, hey, like that's actually going on with many, many people too. And they actually have a name for it. And here, like
Yeah.
you can do this and that and it will like go away and it's going to be fine.
Yeah. It's so nice to be able to have that validation now because of that. Like so many of us have been in that experience for so long, and like connecting on these Patreon and Zoom calls, that they're really helpful. They guide you into that ability to speak your truth. And before I forget, just as we're getting all of our other chakras, we're starting to slowly access more chakras than the seven. And as we're doing it, what's fascinating is the chakras are changing color. And so I just wanted to point out that now, once that activation occurred here, now that throat chakra, instead of being blue, it's teal, which is fascinating because that's the mix between blue and green. And that is significant of speaking from your heart, which I think is really cool, and like, you're not alone. A lot of us have had this, the throat the most. Like, I mean, I still feel silly making my YouTube videos because it's like, I think I step back and think about what that looks like. You know what I mean? Like, well, if I was, a pharmaceutical mind, I would go in there and say, this person has this diagnosis and this one and this one, and then they should go to a nut job farm or whatever, like, and, and a lot of us have, even I have in this lifetime been sent to a psychiatric facility when I was a teenager because I told them about the Pleiadians doing a transmutation on me. You don't tell people when you're a teenager that aliens are coming and healing you. Like that doesn't fly well.
No, it doesn't exist.
But now we're starting to be able to talk about it. Like finally, and as we do, even just listening to someone else talk about it openly, that's why we do these types of things. That's why I do it, is like, because by sitting here and just and openly discussing these things, whatever, no holds barred, then other people can see that and then resonate with that. Someone else is saying those things that I've kept a secret my entire life, painfully so, and like, you don't have to go run around and tell the people that you in your life that won't listen. Like that's, I think, in the reference in the Bible is as throwing pearls before swine. Those who will resonate with what's going on with you, you'll be drawn to. In the meantime, come have some practice, come to the Patreon meetings, come to the Zoom calls, and just listen in, participate if you want, and leave comments and comment on other people's comments, connect.
Yeah,
We're
like
not alone, we're a big group of people.
Yeah, like there's a lot of people who are waking up and having these experiences. Just again, like people don't want to talk about it because to them this is strange as well. But yeah, like regarding the ET stuff, if you're like having experiences and like people find out and they think that you're crazy or that's weird, then just refer to the all the public announcements that governments around the world are doing regarding the existence of extraterrestrial life. And hey, like we've been in contact with them since God knows when. So they're even making Netflix documentaries about it. Like the Pentagon, like disclosing their UFO dossiers. Of course, the only older ones. Like that's a safer period in our history.
Right.
They don't want to talk about what's going on recently.
Right.
But you know, like they're disclosing this stuff, and if they looked at you like you're weird or like that's yeah, like you're crazy, like no, like there are tons of people are having similar experiences, and a lot of people like politicians, doctors, I know, like scientists or like public speakers are like talking about it, like hey, like I had these experiences throughout my life, and it's completely normal.
Right. And that's something else too, is that we had spent so much of those experiences keeping those quiet, and it's just fortified that throat chakra problem that we've had, and those are very real experiences that need to be discussed, like especially if they often will have, because we have so little memory of most of them. For me anyway, the result of that is alarm, because for at least the first reaction, because if you only have a vague recollection of being with a group of entities but nothing that happened, like Hollywood has done a really good job at making sure I go to a place of fear. If the aliens come, they're going to hurt you and they're going to do things to you, anal probes and take your brain and all kinds of stuff, and like,
Yeah, like 99% of all ET movies and entertainment is like horror
right,
stuff, basically. There's just a very few are actually like addressing this whole topic in a more positive light.
exactly.
Yeah, like the Steven Spielberg stuff is pretty good. If you
Yeah,
want
yeah,
to check it out.
yeah. And there's a couple of examples, but for the most part, it's been breeding fear, and so here's the I got to throw out two disclaimers really quickly. One, when we're talking about healing with the flame, we're talking about, in a space of meditation, bringing the flame, the energy from yourself. It's not a real flame. I brought up a candle. I don't want there to be any kind of miscommunication there. We're not burning ourselves. Two,
Yeah, we
when it
all
comes to
did that in the Middle Ages.
right.
And also, like in the Middle Ages, they had this thing that if you were a witch or something, that you're going to be purified by fire and stuff like that. It's kind of like an aberration of what we are doing during transmutation, basically.
Yeah. And most often fire is involved with a spiritual element, like it's that having a bonfire, a campfire, or a candle, or there's the fire element seems to be near to all kinds of spiritual connectiveness for me. So that's very fascinating. It's an interesting point, and the other disclaimer I want to say really quickly is that just like all of you must know by now, the vast majority of interactions with ETs is beautiful. They're there to assist us. In some cases, they're actually from the angelic realm. There's these beautiful experiences that are occurring there, and you will know. That's that thing about using that love again. Like if there is an experience that you're having, that you're not sure, you don't know if you're being filled with love or not, then send love to it. Do that energetic, you can yell I love you to it, but or you can also just send the I love you energy to it. And if it is of love, it will answer back. If it is not, it will flee. For fear cannot stand, or this lower density energy stuff, frequency stuff, cannot exist in the same place as that energy of love. Like I've actually seen it. It's crazy. Like I used to just see it disappear and I didn't get to see the detail, but it turns to black sand. And then that sand, as it's falling, disappears. It's crazy. But so just know that, and another really important thing is just to reiterate what Guardian said, to acknowledge it, even if you don't enjoy its presence. To not acknowledge it is assuming that you're giving your permission, you're giving
Yeah.
consent.
If you're not saying no, that means you're agreeing for it to be there, basically.
Exactly.
Yeah, like recognize it for what it is and say like, hey, like I don't enjoy this, leave. Like I don't want to interact with you or have anything to do with you.
Yeah.
Just to make sure like call an Archangel Michael and like collapse all like portals and like doorways through which they can like come and go or observe you and like clean out everything regarding that experience and or those beings and like move on with your life. You don't have to interact with them if you don't want to. And if they're like of higher vibrations, as you were saying, like they will absolutely respect that too. Like if you're not ready or you don't want to interact with them, then they will leave. Like they're not going to pressure you to do absolutely anything.
Exactly. And
Many times
something
they
that
present themselves or like they just kind of let you know, like in a very gentle and like subtle way that, hey, like we're here, like we could do something together, but they will absolutely like not impose themselves on you.
right. Almost like a mom that's trying to be assistance, but she doesn't want to be in your way. They say, I'm over here.
In the other room if you need me.
Yeah. And, just to point out one more thing too, is that what I do is I remove permission. I say that I remove permission for your entrance into this space, and use whatever word is correct for you. Most of what our experience is the resonance of the words that we use, but the what makes it such a barrier to use this format of communication is that resonance of each word is different for each individual being that is here. We all have a little teeny bit of baggage, or not even baggage, but what we're looking at today is colored by yesterday's lenses, so we're seeing through our experience that we've had. And so the words don't always convey exactly what it's intended to convey when someone's speaking.
Yeah, but like your intention is the most clearest thing
Exactly.
Which is like universal, like for thoughts and emotions. And like in the beginning, I also still word stuff because like that makes sense to our logical mind to like call things on its name. Yeah. But basically it can work in a way that, okay, like when I say this, then that will happen. So when I know if I like state this thing, then that will manifest X, Y, and Z stuff for me. Because like that's how I set it up for myself, kind of.
It's your file path. It's your spiritual file path, basically.
Yeah, it's your, I don't know, like spiritual vocabulary or something.
Yeah. And and that's what's so cool about like being in the higher experiences is that talking is so easy. Like it's so complicated here. It's so easy to talk up there because you're not talking. It's like I still try to like use my mouth, and just as I'm beginning to like open my mouth to say the thing I'm going to say, I'm already getting downloads of answers, of like images and senses of other, and like that's the communication. It's like you're all in the pool of each other's mind. It's really cool, and that's basically also how it works when you connect with the Akashic, and all of this stuff is available to all of us is the main point, like whatever it was, whoever it was that came into your experience and taught us that there had to be somebody in between. There had to be an intermediary. There had to be a bishop, a rabbi, a monk, a priest, somebody, a channeler, a healer, this, that, to connect to those things. It was a lie. It was a way to disempower us, and as we're realizing this, more and more is coming through. Like right now, Guardian and I have fun right now with the stuff that's coming through. We share back and forth with these little different, watching these landmarks of revelation. People are being shown these things that most of us, if we would have said something about it a couple of years ago, we would have been a conspiracy theorist and ignored. And now all of a sudden, they're like, yeah, it turns out this is true. And by the way, look at this. And that's because there's a lot of people who need to wake up. And so we're feeling, that's the anxiety that we're feeling, by the way. Most of the time, it's that ripple of those people that are waking up in this, oh my goodness, like we have had the opportunity to pick out these stories as they come along for a while. But these guys, a lot of these newly awakening people, they're trying to take a sip of water with a fire hydrant. there's so much all at the same time. Like they don't get it. I had weeks, sometimes months, to like think about one thing that I had just learned, you know?
I was researching stuff for like 10 years.
Right. Yeah, but in between each thing that came through, there would be a length of time where you could digest it, you know. And now it's like these guys are going in and they have to eat an entire feast that for 200 people themselves, you know. It's just, it's a lot. And you know, be gentle with yourself. You are being guided to where you're supposed to go, and your most powerful tool that you can connect with is that spiritual discernment. You know if something's true and something's not. And just because someone said something that maybe there's two things that they said out of 20 that you didn't resonate with, you don't have to take those two things. If they don't feel correct to you, that's not something for you to pick up. We are the world's best lie detectors. And sometimes people aren't even intentionally lying. They're just parroting back information that they were given. It doesn't mean that it's correct information, but you know the difference.
Yeah, like especially if you're awakening and you're developing your third eye and your other senses, then you will also, like when you're doing research, you can like pick up stuff or like detect hidden information just by watching the news, because like there are those like keywords in it and those specific stuff align with something else that you know of. Like you can put those stuff together. But now there are like many people who are like there have always been, who are like putting together like documentaries and like putting together information for you, so you don't have to go on your own, like research every little thing and try to put it together on your own. Like there are channels and people who are, like, is their sole mission to like gather information and like put it together, the puzzle together for you and like present it to you. Like do you see the connections or do you understand it now?
Right.
And after that, like you can also like recognize the same patterns and different stuff that you're going to see like later on. And just go there and just take it slowly. That's the best part about it, yeah. And especially like Fox News is like very kicking ass right now in that regard.
Yeah, it's doing really well.
Yeah, like 5 years ago it was ridiculous, but now they transitioned into something completely different.
Right. You know, and I try not, that's something else too. I really do enjoy reading headlines or titles of episodes, but I find it very uncommon for me to click on most of them, you know, and there's a reason for that, because, you know, like a lot of it is still, it's difficult because there's these messages need to be brought to someone who's existing in that third dimensional experience, if that's what you want to call it. And so you got to kind of like bring it down to that space to help lift them up. And so some of these things are just a little bit silly, and it does have some sensationalization to it, or like something bad's gonna happen, kind of like fear kind of stuff. And
like filter those out. If you're like, if it takes you to fear mode, then nope.
Exactly.
Maybe it's not even true, or I don't know. It's also possible.
Exactly. And there's some underground news things that I follow on Telegram that I very rarely click on, but I've been clicking on some of them and it's been kind of fun to see. But again, it's more than not, it's the landmarks of, guess what? This is it. We're here. They're talking about the stuff that, like, I remember thinking about it as a teenager, thinking no one's ever going to believe any of this stuff, you know, and like regular people are talking about it now, you know, and the facade is so easy to see through it. Like the fact that everything is so Hollywoodized is like obvious to most people now. And I'm so happy to see that.
Yeah, it's awesome. We were waiting for this for God knows how long.
Yeah.
Like Aaron has written something awesome. I used to be a pastor and I had to leave the church because no one wanted to listen. No ears to hear. I even tried using quantum physics, epigenetics, ethica. Many are not ready to unplug. Nope. Like you were the wrong crowd, I guess.
Well, you found the right one, I think, you know, like, and the what's really cool about being in this space is that you really don't, it's weird. It's a different kind of communication. You don't have to explain. It's already understood. So you did like all of the extra stuff that usually you need to explain leading up to a point. You can just say the point. Everybody gets all the backstory already.
It's
That's
just
pretty
like
neat.
with jokes. If you like have to explain the whole catch of the joke, then it's not funny anymore.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. And I'm happy that you're here, Aaron. There's a lot of things that are going to be revealed more and more over the next bit. So our community is going to grow even bigger. But in the meantime, buckle up.
Dorothy. Yeah, like you were talking about the Bible. Yeah, like there are the apocryph or apocryph, I'm not sure like how you call those books that were like excluded or like edited out of the Bible.
Right.
One of them is like the Gospel of the Essenes. Like that's like an awesome book that didn't make the cut.
Right.
For a very good reason. Like it's super empowering.
Right.
So you
Yeah.
don't want that in your church, I guess. But yeah, like check it out. I think it's part of the Dead Sea Scrolls. It's called the Gospels of the Essenes. The Essenes were like these proto-Christian group that were like very into mysticism, and theoretically, like also Christ were like learning from them
Right.
their stuff. I think.
Supposedly that's where he was when he disappeared for that period. He was
Yeah.
training there.
And also like Dolores Cannon has like an awesome book with the Essenes. Like she found someone who had a lifetime during the time of Jesus, and she was one of the Essenes, and she was like describing all those experiences, like how they live, like their teachings and all that. Is very interesting if anyone is interested in that.
It's a really good book. Really good book.
Like, have you read it too?
Yeah, actually, it was really activating for me when they, at the beginning of it, there was a scene that they were describing something about, and I saw everything. And then halfway through the book, it described what I had seen. I was like, okay. Right. So apparently I was there too. That was
cool. Like regarding the Essene stuff, like the Gospels of Essene are basically like the teachings of Jesus that didn't make the cut, basically, in the Bible. Right. And like he's talking about like how to cleanse your body, how to cleanse your mind, how to connect with the Heavenly Father, and how can you work with the Earth Mother to heal your body, and how to be more empowered. And basically what I guess like really struck home with the church back in the day, like he is like stating like to don't search for the words of God and like books that were written by dead people because they only speak of death, and like search for the word of God in all living things because it's like coded in everything that is alive. Like search in life for God, like not in those old rewritten stuff, basically.
Not in what someone told you to.
Yeah. Yeah, like that second-hand information that you were talking about. Yeah, like we were led to believe that you need this intermediary person to connect with God or whatever, but like we're transitioning out of that. We're transitioning out of our guru phase as well.
I'm loving that. That's awesome. And that's why a lot of us have moved up to teacher lately. And even though it tastes weird in the mouth to say that word, like it still is a thing that needs to occur, like the student also teaches, and a teacher who is no longer a student there's no teacher at all as well. So like we're in this space of teaching now, and you'd be surprised. And the thing that I keep hearing over and over again too is like, if someone is not ready for this experience and not ready and not in their awakening experience, there's nothing that you can say that will help them. There's nothing that you can say that will bring them. However, if someone is on this awakening journey and is ready, there's nothing that you can say wrong. Like everything that you will say, it'll be there'll be something in there that will bring them, that will lift them up, and that will help them in some way. It's the most bizarre thing, and like you were saying earlier, you can't bring your family along. But guess what? By the way, I got to say this. In that place, we're in that subway place, for the train place where everybody's trying to get on. The problem is most of the people keep getting back off the train because they want to make sure that their family's there. and they're going and get their family, and then that family member goes on, and that family member's worried about their person. And that's what's happening in this etheric realm stuff. We're all trying to move into this train. The train is symbolic for us to move forward, and everybody's so worried that they're not going to bring their buddies and their mom with them or whatever. And dude, most of the family that you're all worried about are going. I'm just telling you, because that's the experience I've been seeing and trying to assist on. Just keep that in mind. More of us are ascending than we realize.
Yeah, like, and they don't have to be like spiritually super aware or know the dimensions and chakras and ETs. Like,
yeah,
they can just be of that pure vibration of like being service to others, or like being a legit like responsible person who is like there to help others and is like, yeah, like living his truth, basically, like not being lost in all the illusions and mazes of distortion that like society is feeding you. You don't have to be like this super spiritual aware people to go to that higher dimensions, basically. Like that's our part, basically, like to being aware of how this stuff functions, so we can like, when I know, like when a person like that like requires our assistance on something, then we are like more in a way like educated, or like we consciously have more information about it, like how it works, so we can like better assist them, just as we had with the shamans and like spiritual leaders. Like back in the day, there were those people in the tribe who were like very much connected to the spirit realm, and the rest of the people were like following their guidance because like he was the expert or something in that subject.
Right. Yeah, and it's just that, we're all that stuff is really is helpful to get you to a cleaner space, so the transition is easier. And I just keep thinking about that the channelings of Ra, the law of one, and what they said, and I feel like it's true, it feels correct, that the only real requirement to move forward is to be service to others. And what is service to others? It's not Genghis Khan. Genghis Khan is one of the only individuals that was pulled forward when I was asking, who was service to self. Hitler isn't even considered service to self, which is really weird. But
there's no clue what
he must have thought he was really serving people for real. Like, must have been like that out there, But my point is, it's really hard to not get to that point. It's just that at that last moment, whether you choose to go, you can choose to continue on, and your soul makes that choice. It's not even you, so you're good.
I also saw some stuff from Gigi Young. She just released some video about, I think, like dark magic or something. And these occultists that are like trying to do are doing dark stuff. And like they're also on a spiritual path, but in order to like advance beyond a specific level on your spiritual journey, you actually have to become service to others, and to become, she said, like to become this steward that is there to guide people and to assist them, rather than being this service to self individual who only wants to like accumulate knowledge and power for himself to control others. Like, then you're just like hitting that wall, and you just can't evolve beyond that if you don't let it go, basically.
Yeah. And we could put it down too. Exactly. It's simply, it's a level of grade that I don't know how to explain. And I agree with you. That's really the space that it is, and the vast majority of the world are people who care about the other, who care about those around them, and not just their specific loved ones, but wouldn't run over a deer in the road on purpose, kind of person, you know what I mean? Like, it's really not that. It's really more likely that any individual will ascend. It's not so exclusive, I guess. It's awesome, but we're at this energetic space of service to others. We're here, and it's like the culture of the world, so it's already part of who you are.
Yeah, and let's see how it evolves in coming years. And also, like people who are like stuck in the old ways of like being this service to self, or to people who deliberately want to run over a deer in the forest, the type of people, I guess like they are going to like check out of this reality because like it becomes more difficult for them with each passing day or week to stay in this vibration because like they're becoming incompatible with where we are going.
Right.
But if they choose to let that go, then they can work through it. Because yeah, like you have to work through it. Like it just doesn't go away on its own.
Exactly. And there's no wrong choice either. It's just whatever is correct. Hey, it's 111. You need to go to bed. You're not feeling very good.
To go, like in closing, do you want to share anything?
Thank you for this gathering. I'm sorry I was so scattered. I didn't keep any kind of structure again. It's always my fault, guys. Guardian's more structured than I am.
Really? Like
Yeah.
not at all, but yeah. Well, I'm glad we had this talk. We haven't had it for 3 weeks now.
Yes.
And I have proven to myself, even if I barely can speak, we can still do it. So let's hope next week I'm going to feel a bit better.
Yeah. We send you healing. And thank you all for joining.
Yeah, thank you. There were a lot of people in like comments and suggestions, questions in the chat box. That is awesome. Thank you for sharing your energy and like being here and interacting with each other and moving out of your closet, basically. Too.
Yes. Congratulations.
Congratulations, you are awesome. Okay, so thank you everyone for being here.